I never expected a simple outing with my son Alex to escalate into a heart-pounding ordeal straight out of a suspenseful movie. However, encountering someone like Karen was an entirely different experience. I never thought that Karen will mistake my son's toy for explosives, then calls Bomb Squad on us. Here's how it all unfolded. I never thought a simple day at the park with my son Alex would turn into a scene straight out of a bizarre movie. But then again, I never met someone like Karen before. She was the kind of neighbor everyone whispered about but never confronted. Always peering through her curtains, she seemed to thrive on neighborhood drama. That day, Alex was ecstatic about his new toy, a realistic-looking model of a space shuttle, complete with blinking lights and soft beeping sounds. As a single dad, I cherished these moments, watching him play and explore with such innocence and joy. We were at the local park, a place usually buzzing with the laughter of kids and the chatter of parents. Alex was running around holding his toy space shuttle high in the air, making whooshing sounds and completely immersed in his world of make-believe space adventures. That's when Karen appeared, like a storm cloud on a sunny day. She was walking her tiny, overgroomed poodle, casting disapproving glances at everyone and everything. Her eyes locked onto Alex and his toy, and her expression changed from disdain to horror. Is that a bomb?" she gasped dramatically, clutching her pearls. I laughed, thinking she was joking. "No, Karen, it's just my son's toy. It's a space shuttle model." But Karen wasn't laughing. "I know an explosive when I see one. That thing is beeping and blinking. It's a danger to us all," she shrieked, backing away as if Alex was holding a live grenade. Before I could even process what was happening, Karen had her phone out, dialing frantically. "Hello, 911? There's a man here with a bomb. Yes, a bomb. We're at the park. Hurry!" I was dumbfounded. "Karen, it's a toy. Look, it's plastic. It's harmless." I tried to reason with her, but she was in her own world, fueled by paranoia and a desperate need for attention. The park went silent. Parents grabbed their kids, eyeing us warily. Alex, sensing the tension, clung to me, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. Then the sound of sirens filled the air. The bomb squad, police, and even a local news van descended upon our peaceful park. Officers approached us cautiously, their hands on their holsters. "It's just a toy," I kept repeating, holding Alex close. The officers quickly realized the absurdity of the situation. One of them, trying to suppress a smile, examined the toy and confirmed it was indeed just a child's plaything. Karen, however, was not convinced. "It could be a disguise. You can't be too careful these days," she insisted, pointing an accusing finger at me. The officers exchanged looks, clearly annoyed but maintaining their professionalism. They explained to Karen that false alarms like this could divert resources from real emergencies, but she just huffed, muttering about public safety and vigilance. The crowd that had gathered began to disperse, some shaking their heads, others shooting sympathetic looks my way. The news crew, realizing there was no story, packed up their equipment. After the officers left, Karen lingered, her eyes still fixed on us with a mix of suspicion and self-righteousness. "You can never be too careful these days," she repeated, her voice a mix of defiance and a hint of uncertainty. I couldn't help but confront her. "Karen, your actions could have traumatized my son. It's a toy, nothing more. You overreacted," she scoffed. "Overreaction is better than no reaction. What if it was real? I'd be a hero then." Her words stung with irony. A hero? In her quest for safety, she had sown fear and chaos. I looked at Alex, his eyes still wide with the remnants of fear, and my heart ached for him. As we walked away, I couldn't shake off the heaviness of the incident. Karen's paranoia had not only disrupted our day but also left a bitter taste of how fear could warp someone's perception so drastically. That evening, as I prepared dinner, Alex played quietly with his toy, but the joy was gone. His usual laughter and chatter were replaced with silence. It pained me to see him like this, his innocence shadowed by an unnecessary scare. Later, as I tucked him into bed, he clutched his toy space shuttle close, a silent sentinel against the night. "Dad, are people always going to be scared of things they don't understand?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. I sat beside him, searching for words of comfort. "Sometimes, buddy, but it's our job to learn and understand, not to fear. We have to be brave and kind even when others aren't." He nodded, snuggling under his covers. "I still like my space shuttle," he murmured, a testament to his resilience. As I turned off the light, leaving his room bathed in the soft glow of the nightlight, I pondered over the day's events. Karen's actions were a stark reminder of how fear could distort reality, turning neighbors against each other. It was a lesson in empathy and understanding, a call to resist the urge to jump to conclusions. The next day, the park was calm, as if the previous day's drama had never happened. But the memory lingered, a shadow over our small community. I hoped that with time, understanding would replace fear, and trust would rebuild the bridges that paranoia had burned. As for Karen, I hoped she would find peace in her heart, replacing fear with understanding. But deep down, I knew that some people clung to their fears like a safety blanket, unwilling to see the world in its true colors. And as for Alex and me, we continued to visit the park, his space shuttle in tow, a symbol of our small victory against the irrational fears that sought to invade our simple joys. I can't believe someone would mistake a toy for explosives and call the bomb squad. Karen definitely needs to chill out. Poor Alex, though, must have been so scared. It's a good thing everything turned out okay in the end. My life seemed perfect after getting engaged to the love of my life. But little did I know that the demands of putting his family before mine would lead to a devastating ultimatum. As tensions rise and family loyalties are tested, I find myself caught in a web of conflicting priorities. Here's how it all went down. I, 28 years old, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, R, 29 years old, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. R's brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't make it to that meal, so we decided to have a separate meal just for his family in late June, when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kay, 32 years old, got a serious eye infection that quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at a high risk of perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have the surgery. However, her eye didn't hold, and it perforated on the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with R's brother. Kay's wife was at work and had her phone turned off, and our mom was away with our stepdad, so when Kay called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at the hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss, and he let me go early so that Kay wouldn't be alone. I texted R to let him know what was going on, and he texted me back to send Kay his love and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored the comment about the meal as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I arrived at the hospital, I was taken to a room where Kay was located. There I was greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses who were rushing around to assist her. It was then explained to me that she needed an emergency operation to have her eye glued, otherwise she would lose it. However, the problem was that the hospital did not have a surgeon available to perform the procedure, so she needed to be transported to another hospital that was an hour and a half away. They asked if she needed transportation or if I could take her, and I agreed to take her. Upon arriving at the other hospital, we were informed that Kay's operation would take place at 5:30 p.m. Realizing I wouldn't be able to make it to the dinner, I texted R to inform him. He became upset and suggested that I leave Kay at the hospital and have her wife pick her up after the operation. However, at that point, I still hadn't been able to reach Kay's wife. I told R that I couldn't do that and that it was inappropriate for him to even ask. I then texted his mom and explained the situation. She was very supportive and advised me to stay with Kay and keep her updated on the operation. She emphasized that a dinner can be rescheduled, but Kay's health is the priority. I also spoke with his brother, who was equally understanding. I stayed with Kay throughout her successful operation and brought her back home around 9 p.m. Her wife had ordered Chinese food, and I gladly accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. Due to this, I didn't arrive home until around 11 p.m., and R was already asleep. For the following days, R was distant, and we ended up having a huge fight. He insisted that I should have prioritized his brother and family over Kay. He expressed embarrassment about attending the meal without me. I responded by saying that I was embarrassed he expected me to prioritize a meal over my sister's health. This led to a week of tension between us until we finally sat down to resolve the issue, or so I thought. 8 weeks ago, Kay had her graft surgery, and everything has been going well since then. On Saturday, his brother was here, so we went out for dinner with his family. During dinner, his family inquired about Kay's well-being, and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. However, when we returned home, R became angry and said that I shouldn't have brought up Kay's health issues or shown them the picture. I argued that they had asked about her and requested to see the picture. The argument escalated, with R stating that I needed to prioritize him and his family over Kay or else our relationship wouldn't work. He emphasized that once we are married, his family will take priority over mine and I should accept it. Feeling upset, I went upstairs and packed a bag. I am now staying at my mom's house and R has been bombarding me with texts and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never prioritize his family above the health of my own family members. I feel like he expects me to spend every holiday with his family and prioritize their wants over my family's needs, which I cannot agree to. I have a close bond with my sister and my mom, and that will not change. So, I am unsure about how to proceed or if I even want to continue the relationship. Once I made the decision to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I own the house fully, My grandma passed away 5 years ago and left her house to my mom, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I used that money to buy my house about a year after her death. The day after I wrote my original post, I contacted my stepdad's friend, who is a landlord, and he put me in touch with his solicitor. Although the solicitor couldn't meet me in person that day, we had a phone call where he explained my options. In the UK, we have something called a Section 8 notice, which is a 14-day eviction notice. The solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out, but he could contest it if he wanted, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draft the notice and date it for Friday the next day. I had already decided to end things with him after work on Friday so that he could have the weekend to process his emotions before going to work on Monday. On Friday morning, I texted R and asked him to meet me at our local pub after work. He agreed quickly. The pub is a public place, and my stepdad and some of his work friends go there every Friday after work, so I knew he would be there to support me if needed. This suggestion from the Redditors was helpful. I also picked up the eviction notice during my lunch break so that I was ready to give it to him. It cost £250, but it was worth it. When I arrived at the pub, R was already there, and my stepdad was at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with R and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over and explained that I couldn't be with someone who didn't support me during one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to abandon my family for him. It didn't matter what excuses he came up with. I was not interested. I had made up my mind, and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour, but it was probably only a minute or so. Then he started saying that I couldn't be serious, that we had been together for 7 years and I was throwing it all away. He claimed that I could never find another guy like him. In response to his last comment, I said, I don't want a guy like you, and that's why I'm ending it. I need someone who will support me when times get tough, not someone who gets annoyed when the world doesn't bend to his will. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice and my engagement ring. I told him that he had a few weeks to find a place and move out of my house. After that, I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking shocked. I knew he wouldn't approach me while I was with my stepdad, as he has always been a little afraid of him. This is a condensed version of what happened, of course. After work on Friday, I returned to my mom's house. I had received a single text from him saying that he wasn't moving out and was going to contest the eviction until I came to my senses and got back with him. He ended the text with, "We are not over." I turned off my phone and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. On Saturday morning, I turned my phone back on and found another text from him. This time, he said that he would move out if I paid him £10,000, claiming that's how much he had contributed to bills while living in the house. He had paid for half of the electric, gas, Wi-Fi, and Sky package. It's important to note that the Sky package is expensive because he insisted on having every sports channel. His half of the bill only covered the sports channels. However, I had already consulted the solicitor about this, and he assured me that I didn't owe him any money because he hadn't contributed to the mortgage or any house renovations. His payments were for general expenses. He also knew that I didn't have £10,000 just lying around. His request irritated me, so I decided to call his mom, whom I'll refer to as S, to see if she could reason with him. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would talk to him. About an hour later, she called me back and asked to meet at the house. R was away on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back until around 10 p.m., so I knew he wouldn't be there. I met S at the house with K, and she informed me that R's brother was on his way home and they would have R out by the following afternoon. S hadn't even spoken to R, she had only talked to his brother, but she promised that he would be out. S then asked me to walk her through the house, showing her what belonged to R and what didn't, to ensure that he wouldn't take anything that wasn't his. The next morning, I received a text from R, calling me all sorts of names for involving his mom and brother. I blocked him, and a couple of hours later, S texted me to let me know that he was out and staying with her. I thanked her, and she mentioned that she would like to stay in contact. I happily agreed. On Monday after work, I returned to my house, changed the alarm code, and had my stepdad change all the locks. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house, which will be done over the weekend. On Tuesday, S called me and asked if we could meet for lunch. She had some things she wanted to share with me. We met that day and she told me that her ex, R's father, was a controlling asshole who was incredibly selfish. She had seen those same selfish tendencies in R for a long time, which is why she had commented on him being like his father. However, she had hoped that R hadn't picked up his father's controlling behavior, which, to be fair, he hadn't until this whole episode. She left R's dad after he punched R's brother in the face when R's brother was 14 and R was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, But that one incident was enough for her to leave with the boys. To her knowledge, her ex had never reached out to speak to R or his brother, and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I had no knowledge of this. All I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture, and hadn't been for a long time. S thought I knew, which is why she hadn't told me before. However, on Sunday night, she found out that R had been back in contact with his father for the past year. His dad had been filling R's head with ideas about how he was the man of the house, and that his family was all that mattered. This had fueled R's selfish tendencies, and amplified them significantly. S told R to find somewhere else to stay as soon as possible, because she couldn't even look at him. R and his brother then had a huge argument that resulted in his brother telling him that as long as R stayed in touch with their dad, he would have no contact with him. His brother even told him to spend Christmas with their dad because S would be going to his house and R wasn't welcome. When S took her other son's side in all of this, R flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. However, a few hours later, R returned home looking like he had been crying. It turns out that his dad didn't want him living with him and basically said that he could be on the streets for all he cared because he wasn't going to provide a roof over a grown man's head. S believes that R is now starting to realize everything he has lost by listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. S is incredibly disappointed in him, but is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out of her house because she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still refuses to have anything to do with him. S has also told him to stay away from me as I don't need to be involved in this situation, and he promised her that he would. Only time will tell if that's true, but I have blocked him on everything, and if he shows up at the house, I will call the police to remove him. The more S told me about what had been going on behind my back, the more determined I became to have nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again, if I can help it. So, all in all, R's life is a mess, but as long as he stays away from me, I don't care. I have been spending a lot of time with my sister and her wife, as well as my mom and stepdad, which has been great. I haven't been very close to my stepdad, but this situation has brought us closer together, which is one positive outcome from all of this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I will get there. There are still a lot of emotions that I need to process, and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to fully recover from all of this and don't want to burden anyone else with my current circumstances. For those asking about Kay, she's doing great. She had a hospital appointment on Monday and her consultant said her eye is healing marvelously, which is a relief. Thank you to everyone who reached out to me. I hope there won't be a need for any further updates, so this should be my final one. I ended up breaking up with him over it, and he was forced to move in with his mom, who then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad, who was twisting his view on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely no contact, NC with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I'll call my ex R and ex's mom S to make things easier. I hadn't heard from R in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had the chain on my door, so I opened it with that still attached. No way in hell would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mom isn't speaking to him, and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head. His words, not mine. He asked if I would take him back, or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him. And getting him out the first time only went easy because his mom stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court, knowing that if he did, it could take months to get him out. Then he said he would only move if I gave him 10,000 pounds. I contacted his mom, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again, and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and have saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends, and it managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer her other son. Her and R had a huge argument about this, and she finally kicked him out. Since then, he's been couch surfing, but with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for him and that I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up, but they said they would but don't have room, and if they had a spare room like me, then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So, am I the jerk? A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that and changed my alarm code as well. My stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to meet with one of R's friends' wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative for sure. I'll call her N, a 30-year-old female, and her husband Z, a 29-year-old male. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my coworkers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring R with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, N was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. R rang Z on Thursday morning, saying he had nowhere to go, and could he stay with them for a few days. Z spoke to N, and they agreed he could stay in their guest room. R went to their house after work, and they had a long talk where R told them he has a flat lined up but can't move in till January. Z and N agreed to let him live with them until January, as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking, he had to be quiet when he got back, so he didn't wake their 6-year-old daughter. He agreed to all this and paid for Chinese food for them all that night. The next day after work, R went to meet his dad in the pub for a few pints. When Z and N went to bed, R still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by R arguing with a woman. Apparently, R had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Z and N's house, got his pleasure, and then told her to get dressed and leave once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where R was saying some horrific things to her. N took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, while Z stayed upstairs arguing with R. Once N had gotten rid of the woman, she went back upstairs and tried to calm Z and R down. At this point, R decided to take out his frustrations on N, calling her a jerk and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich before bursting out laughing like he'd made the funniest joke ever. This made Z lose it and pinned R to the wall by his throat. Side note, R isn't a fighter at all, whereas Z was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. N managed to get Z to let him go, and R was shoved into the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that N's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning, N got their daughter ready and went to her mom's house after telling Z to get R out of their house. Z agreed, and after N left, he woke R up and told him to pack his things and leave. R tried to apologize and begged to stay, but Z was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday, Z texted R to meet up so that they could speak, and they met up in a pub. Z has been friends with R since they were 11 and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of R. Basically, R has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point, it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand and foot, as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into R's ear, and it's really taken a hold of him. Z told N that he just doesn't recognize R anymore. R wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he should. When Z pointed out that R's dad is 62, living in a one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since R's mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him, and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub, people finish their pints so they can leave and get away from him. R was furious. He told Z that his dad is just misunderstood. Z responded that people understood his dad, and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation, and R left. Z did find out that R does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true, and that he's found a bed and breakfast he can stay in until the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Z and N have also decided to go no contact NC with R as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like R was on drugs, so I asked N what she thought, and she doesn't think so, but can't be sure. She and Z think that R is just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that R has a burner Instagram account that he is using to check on my Instagram, and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents when I couldn't even help him out to Z on Sunday. I had been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pics on Instagram. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feelings for him anymore other than frustration at how he's acting and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked N for the info, and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with R, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen R's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors who told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they're part of the friend group, and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently at my sister's, and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend. So I will be on and off for the next few hours if anyone has any questions. This story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of prioritizing your own well-being and setting boundaries in relationships. The OP's experience highlights the detrimental effects of neglecting their own family's health and needs in favor of their partner's demands. As I prepare to embark on a new chapter in my life, filled with love and promise, a lingering darkness from the past threatened to cast a long shadow over my happiness. Little did I know that the seemingly innocent act of discussing inheritance would unravel a web of secrets, betrayal, and unanswered questions. Here's how it all went down. So here's a little bit of context. I, 25M, and my half-brother, 50M, lost our dad, 69M, back in October 2022. He fought a long battle with cancer, but he is no longer suffering. My dad had my half-brother, let's call him G, when he was in his early 20s and had me in his late 40s. Unfortunately, his first marriage didn't work out soon after G was born. Due to the circumstances following the divorce, Dad wasn't really involved much in G's life, but he still kept in contact with him. Not long before Dad's death, he explained to me that when I was born, he didn't want to make the same mistakes he made with G and wanted to devote all his time to raising me. That was one of the many things that still stick with me to this day. A few days after Dad's passing, G drove down to help with the funeral arrangements. While he was here, he contacted the storage facility where Dad had his valuables. Since he was the only alternate listed, he had access to the unit where both of us went and cleared it out. We went to Dad's house to examine the guns and knives he left behind, and it surprised me how many I didn't recognize, considering Dad and I used to go shooting at the range quite often. This is where the problem begins. Dad never had a legally signed will stating who would inherit what. So G and I discussed splitting everything 50-50, cars, knives, belongings, etc. But before I could discuss the guns, he quickly stopped me and said that Dad doesn't want you to have the guns right away because he said you were too young, which I found extremely unfair, considering Dad had given me one of his pistols before my 21st birthday. I asked questions like, at what age do you think I should have some of the guns? And what do you plan on doing with 20 guns? He was very vague and refused to answer my questions. He told me, we will talk about this later, but the very next morning, he packed up the guns and his things before I realized what was happening. He was supposed to stay another day to help with the funeral arrangements, but he had to get back to his family and just left it to me. He wasn't even going to say goodbye until I woke up and saw that he was leaving. A year has passed, and now I'm engaged to the love of my life, and we just moved into a townhouse. I FaceTimed G and showed him the new place, and he congratulated me, saying Dad would have been proud if he saw me today. That's when I brought up the inheritance again. I told G that I am at a point in my life where I now have my own place, and a soon-to-be wife, and protection matters. I asked him what happened to the guns he took, and he replied with, just let it go, man. They are gone. Gone? Did he sell them? He ended the call, and after a few days I reached out to him again with a text saying, hey man, I'm not going to bother you a whole lot about the issue, but if you can give me a call, I just need some closure. He replied with this, it's not all about you, man. Think about how you try to manipulate people to get what you want. I told you I left because I needed to get home and make money for my family. We didn't have a lot of savings to fall back on. You keep throwing that in my face. I am drawing the line on manipulation, bro. I care about you and want the best for you, but I will not be manipulated. I will be hard on you like a father. I don't allow that with my kids. I hope your fiancé doesn't allow that either. We are all selfish by human nature. I don't drive a $28,000 truck. I don't have a 70 inches TV. I also don't have a $16,000 Harley. And I don't want those things at this stage of my life. I am living to see my kids grow up and be productive. I am happy for you, and that you have a lot to be thankful for is my point. Always remember, a borrower is a slave to the lender. I know you are a kind young man, and so is your big brother. Trust me. I took some time to think about what he said, and I replied with, I'm sorry if my demeanor seems manipulative. Sometimes things sound better in my head than what I can say in words, so I apologize for that. I'm not coming from a place of greed. What I'm looking for is closure because as a brother, I deserve to know what you did or plan to do with some of the items associated with the fond memories Dad and I made together. Did you sell them? If so, that's perfectly understandable. You have a family to feed, and I would do the same thing if I were in your shoes. If that's what happened, then okay, we'll just leave it at that, and we won't discuss it further. Another thing is, while it may seem like I'm doing well for myself, in reality, I had to make a lot of sacrifices to get to a point in life where I'm at least comfortable. My fiancée and I drained nearly all our savings just to secure the townhouse. Her parents were gracious enough to help us with a lot of the furniture I showed you on FaceTime. As for the Harley, I'm still trying to sell it to ease the financial burden. So while it may seem like I'm trying to brag, I'm just proud of my accomplishments and wanted to share them with you as a brother. With that in mind, I've realized that it is more important than ever to protect the things I've worked for. Now that the woman I plan on marrying is under the same roof with me, I have to protect her as well. It's no longer about me, it's about us. I could invest my money over time to afford those items, but she and I have been trying to save up for the wedding we plan on having in the near future, one that I hope you all would attend if we can resolve this issue soon. Again, I'm not asking for much. There were a few guns in particular that Dad showed me how to use, clean, load, etc. Dad and I made a lot of good memories with them, and it broke my heart when you left without knowing if I would ever see them again. I even discussed this with my fiancée, and she offered to buy back those items as Christmas gifts to me. She's a great woman, I know. I know what I said above sounded harsh, but there are some things in life that I simply cannot look past, and Dad's memories are one of them. I'm not trying to blackmail you or corner you, but I want the closure you never gave me. I'm not coming from a place of greed, and if you had to sell them to provide for your family, that's okay. I understand. If you didn't, then please, think about it. I am no longer that wild young kid who used to drink a lot and have fun. I'm a grown adult now, and I hope you realize that this isn't about me not being old enough yet, or me trying to manipulate you. This is me finally putting my foot down and letting you know that I'm not going to pretend everything is okay when it clearly isn't. I can't just let it go, man. I love you, man. You are the only brother I've ever known, and I have watched you raise a great family. I know you would do anything to protect them, but please realize that I'm starting a new chapter in life, and protection means just as much to me as it does to you. Please consider this. That was almost a week ago, and he still hasn't replied to me. My fiancé and I plan on seeing them for Christmas, because I made a promise to my nephews and niece that I would be there for the holidays. I'm not sure how else to approach this situation without causing conflict between G and me. After much reflection and attempts at communication, it is clear that the issue of the inherited items has caused a strain in the relationship between the OP and their half-brother. Despite their efforts to seek closure and understanding, the half-brother's response suggests a disconnect and unresolved conflict. I never expected my life as a stepmother to turn into a battlefield, but here I am, torn between my husband's demands and my own sanity. Lily, the stepdaughter I couldn't connect with, wants to live with us, and I'm left grappling with the consequences of my decision. Little did I know, this would set off a chain of events that would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself and my role in this family. Here's how it all went down. I am a 28-year-old female, and I have been married to my 42-year-old husband for 2 years. We have been together for a total of 4 years. My husband has 3 children from a previous marriage. Lucas, 18 years old, male, Lily, 16 years old, female, and Kayla, 13 years old, female. While I do not have a dislike for children, I have been clear with my husband from the start that I do not want children of my own. He was aware of this when we were dating, and it was not an issue initially because he only had his children for a weekend each month as they live far away from us. I made it clear that I did not want to take care of his children, apart from the occasional weekend. During the past 4 years, I have made efforts to be a good stepmother and have built a positive relationship with my stepson Lucas and stepdaughter Kayla. However, I have been unable to establish a connection with Lily. I have made various attempts to bond with her, such as taking her out for girls' days, shopping trips, and fun outings. However, she either refuses to go or complains throughout the entire time. The last incident that deeply hurt me was when I got her a bracelet from her wish list for Christmas, and she threw it away, claiming that I got her the wrong one and insulting my financial status. She even accused me of marrying her father for his money. While I usually try not to let her comments affect me, this incident was particularly hurtful. Since then, I have stopped actively trying to interact with her and have maintained my distance. The truth is, I did not marry my husband for his money. We both work in high-paying tech jobs, and I have also inherited a significant amount of wealth from my parents. I've even agreed to contribute to Lucas's tuition fees. Now, Lily and Kayla want to transfer to a better school next year. The school is closer to our home than their mother's, so my husband believes they should live with us. I am fine with having Kayla live with us, but I do not want to be around Lily constantly. My husband works outside the home 4 days a week while I work from home, which means I would have to be around Lily all the time, and I am unwilling to do that. I have expressed my feelings to my husband, and he called me a jerk. We have been arguing ever since. He believes I should step up as a stepmother and not let a teenager's words affect me. Lily has been in tears, saying it isn't fair that I want Kayla but not her, and her mother is supporting her. So, am I the jerk in this situation? To those who say that I signed up for this when I married a man with kids, let me clarify that my husband led me to believe that he never wanted full custody of them. He even mentioned that if anything were to happen to their mother, their aunt would get custody. He has never been close to his children and has expressed regret about having them. When the children were with us on weekends, I spent more time with them. Therefore, my husband's reaction has caught me off guard. I have suggested therapy and family therapy, but my husband strongly opposes it, so it is not an option for us. I have asked my husband to talk to Lily, but he doesn't want to get involved. If Lily's behavior changes even just a little, I would have no problem with her living with us. However, the fact that my husband and his ex-wife refuse to address her behavior and the fact that I would have to be around her all day terrifies me. It is worth mentioning that both of us come from a culture where it is normal for men to marry older and financially stable women, so our age gap was not a surprise to anyone. At the time of his first marriage, my husband was 23 years old, while his ex-wife was 18. My husband leaves for work at 8 a.m. and returns home at 8 p.m. The kids are in school from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., so I would have to take care of them alone from around 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that is not something I want to do. When we got married, I made it clear that I would not take on any parenting responsibilities, and I stand by that. My husband refuses to work from home like me or come home earlier. I did not share any of this information with Lily or Kayla. I only discussed this with my husband, who then shared it with his ex-wife, and eventually, the kids found out. My intention was to have an adult conversation, and I am aware of how this information could hurt Lily. To those who say I should not have married a man with kids, please understand that my family led me to believe that he was the best option for me due to my age. In my community, most women are married by the age of 21. As my husband and I got to know each other, I fell in love with him, and he assured me that he would support my career and that I would not have to take on the typical role of a mother. I knew that if I did not get married soon, my family would isolate me. I felt coerced by my family and deceived by my husband. Some people say I am not the jerk, while others say I am. It is quite obvious that those who say I am the jerk do not know much about other cultures where honor killings and forced marriages exist. In my culture, and in most cultures outside of the US and some European countries, children or teenagers do not have the freedom to say whatever they want just because they are hormonal or going through a phase. In my culture, it is common for men to have multiple wives, marry young women, and even marry women who are the same age as their daughters. Most children of my kids' age have multiple mothers, and they understand the importance of showing respect. Before passing judgment, I urge you to learn something about other cultures. This shows the complexities and challenges of blended families, and the difficulties that can arise when there are conflicting expectations and dynamics. It is important to approach these situations with empathy and understanding for everyone involved. Cultural differences and societal norms can also play a significant role in shaping perspectives and attitudes. Ultimately, finding a resolution that considers the well-being and happiness of all family members is crucial, even if it requires open and honest communication, compromise, and seeking professional help if needed. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.